Everyone, and welcome to today's ALCTS webinar on protecting and saving family treasures. I'm Stephanie Lampson. On behalf of the ALCTS Continuing Education Committee, I am delighted to introduce this free webinar as part of ALA's Preservation Week. Our presenter today is Nancy Kraft, Head of Preservation at the University of Iowa Libraries. In 2009, she received the Midwest Archives Conference President's Award for her extraordinary work following the historic levels of flooding that struck Iowa in the summer of 2008. For many of us in the profession, Nancy is the disaster queen. She has a tremendous amount of experience in disaster recoveries, both large and small. A sampling of these include the Iowa floods of 1993 and 2008, the University of Iowa Old Capitol Fire, the water-soaked State Historical Society of Iowa building, and a mold outbreak in the Law Library's rare book room. Her passion is helping individuals to preserve their keepsakes. Before we begin, just a few quick notes on today's webinar. If you have questions during the webinar, please type them into the question box on your screen, and Nancy will do her best to answer as many questions as possible at the conclusion of her presentation. Also, please note that today's presentation will be recorded, and you will receive an email with a link to that recording shortly after the conclusion of the webinar. So with that, I'll turn the program over to Nancy.
Welcome. I'm so glad you could join us. Although this presentation is geared to the individual, the information can certainly be applied to museums, libraries, businesses, or any type of organization. The principles are the same for any disaster or accident. The first thing you need to do is to get prepared. So you should take steps to minimize accidents. We suggest that you conduct a site survey and take corrective actions, create a good environment, use good storage and display practices, identify external risks and take precautions, be prepared, and respond in a planned manner. Conduct a site survey. Do a walk around your home. Assess roof, check eaves and downspouts, your landscape. This is a common problem where your landscape over the years has sunk and you're actually directing water into your basement. So that's something very critical to check. Check your foundation and your windows, make sure everything's sealed. We have chipmunks, this damage here that you can see at my house. They like to live in our little pipe that comes from our sump pump, and our dog tries to get at them. So every once in a while, as yesterday, we're at risk of not being able, when our sump pump works, the water is going to come right back into our building. Do a walk through your house, and these are all very common sense. Check your electrical wiring, your sump pump. I just talked about that. Internally we work, but externally we don't in our house. Check for cracks in foundation, your windows. Is your smoke alarm working? Is your water heater, where is its connections? Where's the location of your heirlooms and keepsakes? You can see here that some of our keepsakes, unfortunately, are in the basement next to the bathroom. I have taken some precautions by putting them into plastic tubs, and as I can find space to move them, they will be. And that's something else, is you identify things to take corrective actions that may take you a while to address them. You should conduct an environment check. Check your temperature and humidity, your light, air circulation, check for insects, mold, and other worries, and cleanliness. When my mother passed away, my dad sealed up the upstairs and wouldn't let any of us remove any books or anything. for 2 years. That was just enough time to encourage bookworm damage. And this is where you can see right here is a little bit of, that's where the larvae, little worms ate in. You can notice that by little, it looks like sawdust shavings. So keeping it clean, I'm not obsessively clean, but that all is very important. You should, to create an environment check, excuse me, a good environment, you really need to try to avoid extremes in temperature and humidity. Do the best that you can to keep those swings down. So it's very difficult in the very locations that you live, but if you can find a room in your home that has the least ups and downs, that's the place to store your valuables. And you know, do your best to keep your temperature set at 70 degrees or less. You are you know, also providing the best environment for people, so you'll need to make compromise. And also your humidity, do the best. Typically we can control a temperature better than humidity. You should avoid or minimize light. Keep your valuables away from food, because food attracts bugs and mice and all kinds of things. We just talked about keeping items dust-free, and you need to monitor for mold, insects, etc. I should tell you briefly, quickly go back here. I wanted to point out the two books that are in this illustration are they are at the same, published in 1878, and one was kept out of light and in good temperature control, even pre-air conditioning, and the other one wasn't. And you can see the difference that good environment does. You also want to keep good environment to avoid mold. And mold likes 4 things. They like to grow moisture, heat, poor air circulation, and dark. And I always say that good air circulation will trump everything. If you can't do any of the other things, if you can keep good air going through, that'll keep your mold outbreaks down. And what I've done, I have a room that can have problems, and what I've done is I've turned my thermostat to continuous air. It doesn't cost any more, and it greatly improves your air circulation. Put your items into protective containers. You may want to start with just ordinary boxes to keep things out of dust and light. But as you have the money and time, you may want to upgrade into archival boxes. And there are all kinds for the different things that you have. And just a reminder that containers do protect, not only from what I just mentioned, but from a disaster. You can see the box to your left as you're facing the screen. This went through 2008 flood disaster. The box was buried in mud and stepped on, probably, from the looks of it. But when you pop the box open, it did what it's supposed to do. It saved the items inside. So boxing your items is very important. You also need to think about how you're storing your digital. And I know that a lot of companies have these wonderful lines for you to write on. And I hear that people are having sound problems. I'm speaking directly into the mic. Is that okay? Okay. All right. If I drift away, let our managers know and they'll get to me. So the CDs have these lines on for you to write on. And actually, if you write on those lines, you're risking the information that's on it. You should only mark on the inside of the hub and put your information on the archival paper container that you put them in. You should protect your artwork. Use UV filtered glass or plastic. A mat around your artwork will keep things away from the glass or from your photographs. This is a common problem that we encounter in our conservation lab, is that there's no protective mat. The photo or artwork there gets moisture between it and the glass. It adheres to the glass, and then you can't separate them once they're dry. So the matting provides, besides an attractive appearance, it provides protection for your artwork. Hang away from light and on interior wall if possible. I realize that's kind of a silly thing to try to do, because then you would have nothing on your outside walls. But if you've got something of great value, try to keep that off of an interior wall. And use bumpers to allow air circulation. In '93 flooding, the most common thing I got a call on was that people got mold behind their pictures because the picture had trapped humidity between the back of the picture and the wall. So the bumpers allow great circulation. And whenever possible, use archival materials. Consider making a display copy and tucking the original away for safekeeping. And for textiles, you want to store in archival tissue or a white muslin cloth to soften the folds. The quilts can be rolled in muslin. At the end of this presentation, I have a bibliography for you that includes a couple good books on storing textiles. You see here some of my kids are adopted, and these are the clothes that they came in, and I wanted to keep them for them. This you can do with christening and other important keepsakes. Also, build in redundancy and check for obsolescence. You can see quite a few, or most of these things on this screen are already out of date. And some of them are so far out of date that trying to upgrade them is going to be very difficult. However, I did build in redundancy, so the oral history I did with my grandfather is also in print. I'm at risk of losing his voice if I don't get the VHS and the cassette put onto the newer format of CD or DVD. I mentioned monitoring. We saw a little damage from bookworms, but here's damage where I did a photo album. You can see the little pink across here. That is not the deterioration of the photograph, but rather when I put this photograph together, I used non-archival photo corners, and the photo corners are eating away into my photograph. So I need to update the photo corners and possibly replace some of these photographs. Do consider storage. Take some storage things into consideration. We mentioned a lot. I'm just going to summarize that you should keep things, when possible, away from light. That's your natural, your sunlight and your home internal electrical lights. Find a room with good air circulation, consistent temperature and humidity as possible, away from outside walls and off the floor if possible. If books and other items are shelved against an outside wall, pull these items at least 3 inches away from the wall. If you push your books up against an outside wall, they act as a wick and they will bring in moisture, and eventually you will have mold problems. And also think about where you're storing these and which ones are the most important, so that you can, if you want to move them quickly in case of a disaster, they're easily accessible. And this is where containers help. Not only do they protect, but they make them easy to cart away. And there's lots of tips at this website that I've just posted here. Once you've thought about how you're handling things inside, then you should think about what are the common risks in your area. And here are some, and I know I've left several out, but think about ones that are in your area. And the hurricane, there's so much that needs to be done to prepare for a hurricane that you should write this website down. It tells you how to prepare your roof and how to strap your roof to your house, the types, the thickness of your shutters, the kind of doors and situation things you need to think about for doors and garage doors. Floods are probably what most people will deal with, no matter what the disaster or accident is. We can get pipe breaks. We can get underground water. We can get flooding from intense rains. So you need to make sure your sump pump is working inside and out, as I just pointed out. It's not a bad idea to get a battery-operated backup in case of power failure. My brother-in-law knows how that goes. They went away and they had a sump pump but not a backup, and they came back to several inches of water because they had, I believe it was a water heater failure. Make sure you regularly clear debris from your gutters and downspouts. It's another place where you can end up having water into your house through your basement or roof if it backs up too far. Anchor any fuel tanks. Raise, if you know that you have a flood forecasted, work to raise things off the ground, and check where your switches and sockets and everything are. You may, if you are in a flood area, you may want to have some retrofitting of your house as you can afford it. Of course, move your furniture, valuables, and documents to a safe place. Earthquakes, again, these are very common sense. Make sure your shelves are secure to your walls. Large and heavy objects should be on your lower shelves. Store anything breakable in closed cabinets that have good latches. And here's something you may not think about is your heavy items that could fall in an earthquake. Make sure they're away from any place that people may be sleeping or sitting. Brace your overhead lights. Again, secure your water heater. And think about where you're storing your weed killers and pesticides. And again, this can be for any, not especially for earthquakes. So safeguard your possessions. Keep them in a secure place, such as a safe deposit box or waterproof container. And again, someplace where you can quickly grab them. Make sure that several people in your family know where this container is so that you can take it with you. And here's just a list of some of the things that you should think about having in your container: insurance policies, wills, passports, your immunization records, bank account numbers, proof of residence. This may seem like an obvious thing, but you may want to take something along that shows that you're a resident there, especially if you're renting as opposed to owning. And a copy of your insurance policies with your agent's contact information. And you may want to have some of these things copied in a bank vault or in a with a friend or neighbor or someone that's in another area. You want to think about conducting a household inventory, and this can be very overwhelming, so you may want to be selective as to what you do. If you've got a valuable collection, you may want to have someone come in and do an evaluation or keep an inventory. My husband has an extensive hand tool collection, and he keeps an inventory, a list of every item that he has, and makes up backup copies. It's not a bad idea to take photographs or videotapes of your different rooms. And don't forget that you may have things stored in basements, attics, or garages that you might want to document. And photographing and dating may be the easiest and quickest way to do this. Be prepared. I know depending on what area you're in, you probably have gone through drills such as tornadoes to know where you need to be. So depending on the type of threat, you need to know where your safe area is in your house. It may be that your home's not the safe place, especially if you're in a trailer and there's a tornado predicted, so you need to know alternate places that you can stay. Think about if you've got to do escape routes, if there's a type of accident. This is very critical. Have an out-of-state friend or relative who can act as a family contact, and make sure that all of you have this phone number. Actually, you may want to have a variety of ways of contacting your out-of-state friend or relative, because you don't know what's going to go down. You don't know if your cell phone's going to work or your email. So have a variety of ways to get a hold, so that to report in. Make sure everyone has all these contact numbers. Make sure that your friend knows that you're making them your contact point. And like I say, an accident may happen that you are separated from your friends. In 1996, when I was dealing with a disaster, I got so involved I forgot to go pick up my daughter after school. Luckily, she's very resourceful and realized that she should call a neighbor and have the neighbor come and pick her up. So do think about these situations ahead of time. And like I say, post those in the emergency numbers and make sure your kids know how and when to call 911. Check your insurance company, meet with your insurance agent, and find out what is covered and what isn't covered. And if it isn't, he or she will certainly know how you can get extended coverage. You may want to think about stocking non-perishable emergency supplies and have a disaster supply kit. Have a weather radio. Don't forget to replace the batteries every 6 months, and that's something to remember on your smoke detector. And think about taking first aid, CPR, and disaster preparedness classes. You're doing that today. Have a communication plan. We just talked about that. And make sure that everyone knows the phone numbers, that they have a cell phone, coins, or prepaid phone card so that they can call the emergency contact. Again, make sure you've told your family and friends that you've listed them as emergency contacts. Teach family members how to use text messaging. This might be the only way that you can communicate. And communities are starting to offer alert systems, so you may want to check out to see if that's in your area. Here's a handy little thing that we use in our profession as preservation and conservator responders. We have a little pocket emergency plan, and you can go online, fill this out. It's very simple. And then you can print this out and you can give them to each member of your family so they have all the cards in their wallet. I did this, it took less than 5 minutes. So it's a really good thing to have. You can also just make up your own, but this is an easy way to do this. Some things to think about in a basic emergency supply kit is to make sure you have water, food, a battery-powered or a hand-crank radio, flashlights, first aid kits, a whistle to signal for help, dust masks or N95 masks that have been approved for working in mold. You can get those. You typically can get those at your drugstore. Think about having moist towelettes and garbage bags, wrench or pliers to turn off utilities, can openers. You want to be able to get to your food, maps, and don't forget the chargers for your cell phone. And I'm not going to go through this list. This you will get sent to you at the end of the presentation. But just think about, your medications, formulas. Do you have a fire extinguisher in your car or your home? And particularly think about if you have books, games, puzzles, activities to keep your children entertained, and you may yourself, because if you have to evacuate and you're out of your house for 3 or 4 days, you may want to think of ways to keep yourself distracted. And these are just some more things you can think about for your first aid kit. Again, do you have prescriptions that you need to be thinking about? And do you have any over-the-counter things that you should have? So just think about the kinds of things that you need. And if we have pets, they're near and dear to our hearts, and there's something we want to provide for them too. So think about how you're going to provide them with food and water. You want to have their medicines and medical records with them, alternate place or places that you can take your pet. Don't forget that all animal shelters may require proof of vaccination, including rabies. So this is something that these are things you need to think about. And having a photo of you with your pet's not a bad idea in case you get separated. It'll help you reunite. This is something that you're going to see in several slides. Take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of anyone else. So it's very, very important. You need to keep your family together if at all possible. Discuss problems with them. Rest often. Eat well. Set a manageable schedule. Watch for signs of stress for yourself and for those that are helping you. Unfortunately, when I get stressed, I lose my temper. That's the first sign that I need to go take a rest. So I'm sure you all know what typically the signs of stress for you and your family and how they show. Don't hesitate to seek help, and as you rebuild, think about flood or earthquake or whatever the disaster is to build that in as you're rebuilding. Take care of your children. Again, keep your family together. Listen to what your children are saying. Be factual about the disaster, reassure your children, be understanding, and take care of yourself, because if you don't, you can't take care of your children. You need to stay healthy. Small children, pregnant women, people with health problems should really need to avoid the contaminated areas until cleanup is complete. And sometimes that's hard to do, but you really need to enforce that. Wash your hands with soap and water thoroughly and often. You need to confirm that your water is clean and safe. If you're not sure, boil it. Disinfect your dishes. Do the best to avoid injuries. Watch out for fatigue. That's when you're most likely to get injured. And we mentioned poisons and things earlier. Really be aware of where they are in your house and take precautions. And be patient. And that's really hard to do because you want to go in there and clean everything right away. And it is, if it's major, it's a disaster. And go at it methodically. You'll have better results. Think about always safety, safety. Don't walk through flowing water. Water moves faster than it looks like it is, and there's almost every flood that stories I've listened to, there's someone that gets carried away and drowns from walking in it or from driving in it. And be very careful when you're out and about, because there will be live power wires, all kinds of hazards, animals, and they're probably frightened and will strike back. Look before you step. Manholes may be gone, and you're walking in water. This could only end in another disaster, so you want to keep the disaster from getting worse. And you'll need to clean everything that gets wet. So road to recovery, if your home has suffered damage, call your insurance agent to file a claim. Check for structural damage before entering your home. Take photos. Make a list. Keep the power off until you can have an electrician come in and inspect. Again, I mentioned boiling the water. Take safety precautions with your food. And prevent mold by removing wet contents immediately. This can be really difficult because it's really best if your carpets and curtains, bedding are full of floodwaters, mud, and guck. It's best if you just remove them and don't try to salvage them, or at least get them out of the house and in piles, because you do need to start drying your home out. But before you do any of this, the best thing to do is to do a walkthrough. Identify what needs to be done. Make a plan. Share your plan with family and volunteers. Let them know you are in charge and will coordinate. Or if you don't feel up to being in charge and coordinating, ask someone that you are comfortable with and let everyone know that they are in charge. Contact your insurance company. Ask for advice. Pace yourself and your helpers. Take breaks with food and water, and this is a good time to check in with everyone and make sure all is going well. And here are some things that you can enhance your drawing of your building. And again, I'm not going to go through this. You'll get a copy of this afterwards. These are just some good things that I want to make sure that you have access to. To dry out your home, open up your house. Don't forget to open up closet and cabinet doors and drawers. If things are wood and very wet, they'll start swelling shut. Use fans, dehumidifiers, desiccants, drain your ceilings and walls, And again, unfortunately, if your wallboard got wet and they have started to mold, you will need to remove those. A good idea is to tackle a room at a time. You'll have to frequently change your water. And I'm going to go briefly over accidents. I'll just say accidents happen large or small. And if it's a small accident, you might be able to salvage your treasures yourself. The most common mistake I see is that an item looks bad, so they throw them away. Really, you should contact an expert ahead of time. They're there to help, and they will walk you through it. And I'm going to go through just a few things quickly. For water damage, again, no matter what the disaster, it typically involves water. If items are still wet, rinse with clear water. If they're dry, lightly dust off or dab with damp cloth. Air dry items if possible, and have good air circulation. If objects are broken, keep the bits together, and you may want to photograph them. With your photographs, rinse with clear water. They've already been in water, so you know whether the dyes are going to run. So rinse in clear water and lay flat, and it's probably best to lay them face side up, because sometimes the dyes do run, and a lot of times they'll dry in place. I have here some tips on saving wet books, but this is very simplistic, and after the presentation, there'll be a handout on drying books. And this is probably the most frequent question we get is about books. If the book is not too waterlogged, you can stand it up on its end. Otherwise, if it's really waterlogged, lay it flat and interleaf with plain typing or copy paper or plain paper towels. And frequently turn the pages and change them out. And once it dries, you can do wet weights, or you may have to lightly mist the pages and then put weights on. If you don't have the time or energy, put them in a freezer. Then consult with someone and they can help you, walk you through. So putting things in freezers will buy you time and allow you to get to a consultant to at least talk you through it. If you have textiles or leather or other similar types of materials, best to let them air dry. You can shape them as they dry by putting in some gentle padding, such as a towel. And again, swap them out. And generally, you can dry clean or launder as you normally would. But again, consult a conservator. With furniture, sometimes the surfaces will develop a white haze or bloom. Again, this isn't a reason to toss them out, but to consult a conservator later. If you're drying furniture out within your home, you can see here we put little styrofoam underneath the table legs so that the water would not wick up into the table. And wood should be slowly dried. And you can tell it's dry by touching it. If it's cold to the touch, it's still damp. But allow wood several weeks, if not months, to dry, and let it dry just naturally. Metal objects, rinse with clear water and dry with a clean, soft cloth. And again, for your precious metal objects, consult with a conservator. Mold. And this also applies if you've got wet ashes is you really need to let your item dry first, and then and set them out away from people to let them dry. And again, just as drying out books, you may want to interleaf, and only once the items are dry you can start cleaning. And you really need to protect yourself when you're dealing with mold. You don't need to use disinfectants. You can lightly dust the mold off with a clean paintbrush. If you got a stubborn mold, you can try a damp cloth or sponge and gently wipe. Or you can get what's called a non-chemical natural sponge, or a sponge for cleaning soot at a hardware store. But be careful. You are dealing with stains, and rub very lightly, because it may be that that's not going to come off, and you don't want to rub a hole in your page. And I've mentioned before about safety and protecting yourself. And this, you can see from this picture that there's mold everywhere. It's very, it can be very dangerous. Whether it's toxic or not, you don't know how you're going to be impacted. You can, short-term or long-term low-level exposures can cause serious health problems. So wear an N95 disposable respirator, or if your home is severely covered in mold, get an expert in who can wear a full respirator and Tyvek suit. Use disposable gloves. Protect your eyes. I know it's tempting to touch your eyes and mouth. If you've touched a moldy item or something that's been in muddy, icky water, don't touch your mouth or eyes or ears. Wash your hands as soon as possible. And what I do is after I've been working with mold or severely contaminated stuff from floodwaters, is I go home, I go right to the washing machine, and I put everything in there and wash in hot water, and I take a shower from stem to stern, because the stuff is in your hair, and if you don't shampoo and you lay down at night, it's going to be in your pillow and you're going to breathe it. With photographs, you might be able to digitally restore your photographs. This is just a black and white copy of the original brown sepia tone, but this was able, as you can see, to be digitally restored. So think about what's important to you and what kind of money you want to spend on your different items. And again, don't assume because it looks bad that it can't be salvaged. And I believe I mentioned several times to consult a conservator, and there will be times when you need to leave repairs to the professional. Here's our harvest table that we purchased, not realizing that somebody had restored it, and you can see these little pegs here. What the person did to restore this is they glued this strip to the boards running parallel. What is supposed to happen are these pegs are supposed to keep this loosely in place, so as humidity changes, the boards can expand and contract. Well, it can't. So it's slowly self-destructing because it was improperly repaired, and you don't want this to happen to something that's very precious to you. Smells can be a serious problem. I've mentioned about turning your thermostat to continuous air. You may want to add a charcoal filter to your HVAC system. There are star brights that you can hang up in your area to reduce mold and mildew. And we use Gonzo Odor Eliminator. that is designed for pets, but putting them in little packets in boxes with your treasures can, we've found, take the smell out. So if you need 24-hour assistance, you can call AIC CERT, individuals or people working with institutions. And I'm actually at a week-long training session right now here in Houston, learning how to be a part of this team. There will be 100 people around the U.S. that are out there to help. So do keep this number on hand, and don't forget that we're out there. I'm in, like I said, Houston, getting this training right now so I can be a part of this team. So what I have at the end here are some resources that I use some of the text in the presentation. The Flood Smart and the Ready Gov were about pets and how to respond to floods. There are a couple here. The one down here, there's a flood. They hosted Live U Iowa, is a flood recovery booklet that we developed in '93, and we keep this up to date for responding to particularly floods. And then there's a blog that we add to every once in a while about our experiences in the University of Iowa Preservation Department. And there's also a sidebar that will get you into resources from 2008, all kinds of slideshows, etc. And here's the tips for carrying of water. Water damaged material, your treasures. And then this is the bibliography that I talked about, that although they're old, they're still very, very helpful. And then the places to get the Star Brights and the Odor Eliminator. So I think we have a few minutes to take some questions. I say I'll do the best. I hope that I covered a lot of your questions that you had thinking of. So, and perhaps my colleagues can help me if there's any questions that I need to address. Okay, here's one. Are there any suggestions for companies that can build a reasonably priced archive room in a home? My suggestion on that would be to make sure to find a local preservation librarian or conservator, and they can certainly help you identify what is needed and who in your area can be of assistance. Any other questions?
There's one question, Nancy, about if paper is stuck together following water damage, what is the best way to separate it when dry? Would you like to answer that one?
Okay. I don't see that here, but yes. Papers, that's a good question. If papers are stuck together, and this can also happen with photographs, really best, again, to consult with the conservator or preservation librarian. A lot of times your paper is coated and it will stick, and when they dry they'll stick together. Sometimes once they've dried, you can gently pull them apart. Sometimes we can float them and get them apart. Same thing with photographs. But your best thing is that is to keep it wet and put it in the freezer before they dry together. And sometimes we've discovered that really it's the ends that have sealed together and a light trim will free them. So really, you shouldn't hesitate to call your local preservation librarian or the AIC CERT hotline, and they'll get you to someone who can help you walk you through it. Or if there's a lab in your area, such as ours, we're always happy to have people come in, walk in, and look them over.
Okay, there's another.
Go ahead.
There's one about what exactly is a Starbright. Could you answer that?
What is a Starbright? Good question. Starbrights were developed for the marine, to keep your boats from getting mold and mildew. So it's a very, I forget exactly what the ingredients are in it, but it has been determined that it's safe. And we, as we set up a room to clean our dirty material, and we hung those up to help keep the odors down and to reduce the likelihood that that there would be any mold coming in or starting up. And they work. Like I say, they were developed for boats, and it's just something, again, as the odor eliminator was developed for pets. There's things that we've adopted from other places to use. Any other questions?
There's one on removing cigarette smells. Is that something you'd use for that purpose, or what would you use?
For cigarette smells, also for smoke smells, the odor eliminator is what we found to work the best. Now, people have also used baking powder soda, pop it open and put the item in a box along with the baking powder soda. The other thing I found is just really in good circulation. So sometimes I set up smelly items in a garage and get good fan circulation going. You don't want to put it on the item because they'll probably knock it over. But really, really good air circulation is sometimes the very best solution. But these odor eliminators that I've cited and Starbright both can help. A lot of times your companies, your local companies that go out and clean homes after a disaster will also know of some good odor deodorizers. But again, I would be careful about using some of those products, and again, you may want to consult with the local conservator to make sure they're safe. A reminder, you don't want to use deionizers.
Okay, there's another question about how can you flatten pages after they have been wet?
Okay. If your pages have gotten all crinkly and they've dried crinkly, the best thing to do is to very lightly mist them. You can get very fine misters from, I think from garden stores. I'm not quite sure, but you want something a very fine mist, and hold it away from the page, but lightly mist. It doesn't hurt to use. Now I'm losing the word on the special distilled water, but very, very, very lightly mist, and then put the paper between dry pieces of paper, and just flatten them with with weights like old encyclopedias or bricks. You can do the same thing with your books if they're crinkled, lightly remist them and interleaf every few pages so wick the water out, and then and put weights on. It might take a couple times. Sometimes it does for us. And if it's really severely warped and crinkled, you may need to go to a conservator who has special equipment.
Okay, someone else has asked about bumpers on the backs of framed pictures. Can you explain what a bumper is?
A bumper for photographs and artwork on the back. You can go to a local Michael's or some other similar framing shop, and they're just little rubber bumpers. I don't know how else to explain it, but they're made for your for hanging items, and you can just adhere them. I believe mine were just peel off, and they already had the little glue on them to stick them on. Someone's asking if there's a way to unwarp warped LPs. That one I don't know. We did find that some of the LPs that got wet that were warped as they dried out flat. That's something, if you want to email me, and maybe I should go to that screen now. Email me. I can probably give you some company names that could maybe assist you in this. Any other questions?
We're at about time, so it's up to you what else. If there's one more that you want to try to take, maybe?
Do you have another one in there for me?
How about how best can information on brittle paper be saved?
Okay, a question on brittle paper. Again, there are the brittle paper is brittle, and you can't undo it. So the way we deal with brittle paper is if there's single sheets of paper, you can buy an archival plastic from any archival company. Just make sure that it says it's archival inert polyester plastic. And you can put the item into that sheet, and that will allow you to safely handle it without adding extra damage to it. And then it's probably best to make a copy and let people handle the copy. There's also a product called Archival Mist that you can get, I think, from Target and Walmart, and probably from scrapbooking companies, etc. That if your item isn't brittle yet, but you know that it's likely to, such as a newspaper clipping, that you can spray that on. It's a very safe product to prevent it from getting brittle. But once you've taken those measures, keep it in storage and away from light, because that'll cause it. That'll undo all the good you've done to it. So I think we're at time.
We are, I'm afraid.
Yes. I hope that I did give you a whirlwind tour of dealing with accidents. Like I say, I'm taking a 5-day course on dealing with this, so squishing things into an hour. I know I left a lot of important things out. Feel free to contact me. This presentation will be sent out to you, so you'll have your notes. And thank you for participating in ALA National Preservation Week, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Nancy, for a really informative presentation. I hope all of our participants will be able to use what they've learned today to better preserve their family treasures. Thank you, all of you, for participating in Preservation Week. You'll soon receive a short online evaluation form. Please take a few minutes to fill it out and return it to us. Your comments help the ALCTS Continuing Education Committee evaluate and plan future continuing education offerings. And as Nancy said, you will get an email with a copy of the recording and a place to access that. And there'll be the slides there too as part of the recording. So please join us for 2 more free Preservation Week webinars later this week. The first one is Protecting Future Access, which is tomorrow, and on Thursday, Preserving Your Personal Digital Memories. For more information on these and other upcoming ALCTS webinars, visit the ALCTS Webinar webpage. And you can get there just by doing a search on ALCTS Webinar. Lastly, if you're interested in learning more about preservation, please visit ALA's Preservation Week website, where you can find more tips and resources about preserving your personal collections. Thank you to our sponsor for today's webinar, the HF Group, and thanks as well to Melissa DeFino for her technical assistance. Thank you again, Nancy, and thank you all for joining us today. Goodbye.
Oh, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
So we got, or is it just us 4?
Yes.
There's 4
Took a
left.
while.
We're the last four.
Okay.
So great job, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know about the sound.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Well, I think what was happening is because the little box that, you know, the chat and everything covers up some of my script, even though I thought the mic was going with me when I was looking at my notes,
Oh,
I think I was weaving back and forth. So I put the notes in front of me instead of reading off to the side.
okay.
To be honest, I didn't find it bad. I mean, I could hear you the whole time, so I think it just depended on what their particular audio setup was. That some of them had more trouble with the extremes of soft and loud. So
but I think it's once I put the notes right in front of my face, in front of the screen. Even though the mic goes with me, I guess the movement must have caused a little disruption.
Yeah, I think it was okay though. I wouldn't worry about it. We could hear, so so most people must have been able to.
Well, and if they were in a room with several people listening, that might have been a little more
Right.
a little more distracting.
Yeah.
So, you think it went okay?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it went
very
well.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, and they sounded, you know, they had lots of good questions, and they sounded, there were some in there that were doozies. I kind of kept you away. There was one about retrieving the handwriting on a leather postcard. And I was like, well, we're not going to answer that one.
Thank you.
That one is hard.
I couldn't get to all the, I couldn't get, whatever I was doing, I couldn't get to all the questions. So I'm glad you were helping me.
There were lots, so.
Okay. So,
hey y'all, I'm going to have to take off. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just was wondering if there's anything you guys needed from me before I head out.
You have everything from me.
Not me.
Yeah, I just sent you the questions log as well, so you have all the questions that were asked today. And then just shoot me an email if there's anything else you guys need.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Great.
Julie.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I see that it says what humidity